Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This didn't happen to me personally, but I thought it was good enough to share here. A colleague of mine worked a few years as an internet technician for a service provider, and did installations and maintenance and so on. One day he gets called out to fix someone's router or something. He pulls up in a company van to the address, and it's an apartment building in a busy area with little parking. He sees a few spaces for residents only and thinks, I'll just stop there, unload my equipment at the apartment, then find the proper space. As soon as he does, a lady from the apartment starts shouting at him that he's in a residents-only spot. Clear off or she will call the cops and so on. My colleague tries to explain it's just a quick drop-off, but she insists. So, not wanting to cause trouble, he leaves and parks far away. On getting back to the address where the issue he was sent out to fix was, he knocks on the door, and lo and behold, it's the same woman who shouted at him earlier. From her expression he could tell she recognized him, but he plays dumb and pretends not to recognize her. He starts the repairs and after a little while says, I need to get something from the van, but it will take a while because I couldn't park here. And the lady is all, oh, you can park outside in the residence parking. It isn't a problem. But he insisted, no. I wouldn't want to upset anyone here. I will leave the van where it is. And so he leaves and takes around half an hour to get back. He does this a couple of times, fixes a problem and leaves, while all the while the lady didn't open her mouth. A little backstory to get started here. I own numerous collector cars and tend to drive them almost every day, weather permitting. The car I was driving today was my JZX100 Chaser, which I imported from Japan and have heavily modified into a drift car. For more context, I'm one of the long COVID sufferers, which means for the past year since having the virus, I still get heavily fatigued, shortness of breath and a slew of other symptoms. This has granted me a 2-year handicap parking permit. On my way home, the wife called asking if I minded picking up a few things for dinner. Of course, I had no problems doing so. I stopped into a shopping center not far from my home and see 2 handicap parking spaces next to each other and back into the further of the 2 from the store. I go in, collect the groceries that were asked for while using a cane. Upon exiting the store, I noticed a police car parked in a lane directly in front of my car, permit hanging in my window, and our entitled person talking with the officer. With my cane hanging on the push handle of the cart, I approach, leaning my body weight onto the said cart. Is everything okay here?
What do you think you are parking in a handicap spot?
I hold up my cane.
No handicapped person would drive this car. You're faking it. And probably made that block card at home.
The officer finally butting in. Ma'am, the block card and a tag on the vehicle come back to the same name. Sir, may I see your driver's license? No problem. I show him my license. Sorry for bothering you. Have a nice afternoon.
What? You can't just let him go. This piece of crap.
Yes, she called my baby a piece of crap.
Needs to be towed now.
Ma'am, even if this gentleman didn't have the right to park there, we would just ticket the car, not tow it.
I demand to speak to your sergeant. Sergeant!
She actually hung on the syllables while repeating herself. No, ma'am. There is no reason for me to call my sergeant out here. Please, continue on with your shopping. The officer bids us both good day as the entitled person scoffs and shuffles off. The officer and I exchange an awkward what the hell was wrong with her type of laugh as he shrugs and gets back into his car. As the officer is pulling away, I start to put the groceries into the back seat of my car. Note the car actually has a hood on it, and the hood was a custom order from a C-Bond Carbon, including custom drilling for the hood exit exhaust, which cost $3,200. As I'm finishing putting groceries into my car, I hear a loud, repetitive banging noise. As I look up, I see the same entitled woman now with a hammer banging on the hood of my car, knocking out my headlights, dinging up the front bumper, and before I can even shove her away from the car, managed to completely crack the hood, causing it to splinter from end to end. I shoved the entitled person so hard that when she hit the ground on her back, she rolled butt over elbows to be facing stomach down. The entitled person stands up screaming absolute murder. A co-worker as well as 2 customers of the store happened to witness everything and came running to restrain the entitled person. After realizing she couldn't attack me with the hammer, the entitled person called the police again. I couldn't hear much of the phone call, but I will not lie, I was a bit worried about a possible assault charge. Less than 5 minutes later, the same officer arrives, as well as 2 additional units. The officer orders me into a pat down and I comply, crapping my pants I might add. He handcuffs me all the while the entitled person is screaming about me assaulting her. The officer notices the damage on the front of my car and asks what happened. I explain that this absolute nutter had just teed off with a hammer on it unprovoked moments after he left. The entitled person denies this entirely, stating that she only hit the hood of the car once because she missed hitting me. Luckily, I remember that I had a Blackview dashcam in my car, which includes a dashcam that captures video anytime there is motion. I explained this to the officer and that I can pull it up on my phone. The officer uncuffs me while the entitled person is screaming to take me to jail, clearly realizing that she's in deep crap. The camera showed and recorded all of what happened. It showed me toppling this large woman across the parking lot as she drew back to swing the hammer at me. Actually, I didn't notice this at the time. The entitled person was immediately handcuffed while resisting and even spat on one of the other officers. Obviously, I said I wanted to press charges, and the entitled person is facing 4 charges: felony destruction of property, felony assault, assault on an officer, and resisting arrest. Luckily, the officer allowed me to drive the car home, roughly 2 miles, while he followed me, and it's now sitting in my garage, and I'm writing this as I sit on hold with my insurance agent, and I plan to file a civil suit against the entitled person as well. I, 21 male, have an older brother, Dave, fake name, that has always been a jerk to me. There is only a 1-year gap between us, but he liked to beat me up when we were kids, and he always acted like anything that was mine was also his. He was also somewhat the golden child, which made me miserable. So no surprise I moved out at 18. My uncle is now a retired police officer, and he took me in after I left home. He even hooked me up with a decommissioned Crown Vic. I absolutely love that car. I don't know why, but Dave hated the fact that I had that car. He drove 3 Peter's cars into the ground while my Crown Vic kept chugging along. Well, after his 3rd beater finally died when he drove it into a pole, he asked to borrow my car. I had a bad feeling and said I wasn't going to do that. He called me entitled and said he needed a car to get to work. I told him to take the bus because I know how he drives, and my Crown Vic was off limits. My parents called me after that and told me to just lend them the car. I said I won't, no matter what they say. I rely on the car and need it as well, since it's my personal transportation. Dave wasn't the only one in the world with a job he needed to get to. My uncle congratulated me for standing up to them and gave me a high five. A few days later, when I got off work, the car wasn't where I parked it. I called my brother's cell, but he didn't pick up. Then I called my parents and asked them if he took my car. They denied it, so I said I was going to call the cops. And then they admitted he'd borrowed it because he needed it. I told them he better bring it back right now, or I will have police looking for him. They called me a jerk and then phoned Dave to bring my car back. He showed back up in the parking lot in my car 20 minutes later. I demanded to know how he stole my car, and he held up a set of police Crown Vic keys he bought online. Some were made universal. I told him if he ever stole my car again, I'd have him arrested. Then he had the audacity to ask for a ride home. I told him he made me wait in the December cold after stealing my car. so he could walk. He called me names before I drove away. After that, my uncle installed a tracking device in the car. When Christmas Day came, I was celebrating with my family like every year. The roads were cold and icy, so I had to be very careful while driving. By now, you're probably clued in on the title. Yeah, Dave borrowed my car again during the Christmas party. Apparently, he decided he was gonna pick up a friend and figured I wouldn't notice. But I did when I looked out the front window and saw my car was missing. I pulled up the tracking app and saw he was a few miles away, then called his cell to yell at him. Everyone in the party saw this and asked what was going on. I said Dave stole my car again, and my uncle confirmed it wasn't the first time. Dave told me over the phone to screw off and he'd be back soon. I said he better not have been drinking, but he just hung up on me. Well, while I was watching the tracker app, the dot stopped and didn't move for a while. Soon, we got a panicked call from Dave asking for help. He crashed the car because he couldn't handle the icy roads and he wasn't used to a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So we piled in my parents' minivan and followed the tracker. We found Dave by the road in my Crown Vic nose deep in a snow-filled ditch. My uncle was furious as it was formerly a car of his department, and I was mad as hell at Dave for stealing my car again. My parents wanted me to let it go, but I said enough was enough. I was going to call the police. Dave begged me not to because he really had been drinking before he set off and would get a DUI. I said he was going to pay me back for my car then, or I would sue him. Well, as luck would have it, police were already aware of the accident and were driving in to check on the scene. Someone else had called him, I guess. My parents tried to say that I was the one driving the car and they were just there to help me. I said that wasn't true, and my uncle backed me up. In fact, one of the cops that was there recognized my uncle and they had a chat. Then they went to Dave and asked to see his license, which I then found out was suspended after he crashed his previous car. Then they press tested him. He wound up with cuffs slapped in his wrists, while my mother was crying and begging the police not to take him away. But the officer just said that she and my dad could get arrested too for lying to the police. And that shut my parents up. We got back in the minivan. The Christmas party ended early and my parents drove me and my uncle home since he rode with me. They didn't say much to either of us the whole drive and just sped away as soon as we were out of their van. They nearly slipped off the road themselves doing that. My brother was let out of jail the next day, and he looked so scared that he was practically crying. The cops there had roughed him up a bit while talking about prison and the crap they had seen going there. Dave had actually pissed himself during that and they let him take a shower. And that's when my uncle started cracking up and revealed to us that his friends in the department never filed for the DUI and just a charge for the suspended license, which was about a $600 fine. My uncle said he just wanted to teach Dave a lesson, and this would be the only time he'd ever get his help. Dave then apologized to me and said he'd pay to have my Crown Vic fixed and would never touch it again. When it got pulled out of the ditch, the front end damage was actually minor. It needs a new front bumper, a headlights, and a grille. The damage was just superficial. My parents had pretty much glossed over the whole incident and act like it didn't happen. Dave gave me the extra Crown Vic keys he bought online and said this has taught him a lesson he won't soon forget. It. Okay guys, I'm kinda tired of so many gripping about how my uncle broke the law by keeping my brother's DUI from ever being filed. I did not consent to that. I did not want him to do it. But by the time I found out, it was already done. My uncle isn't a bad person. He was actually a great cop that believed in people getting second chances, and he was thanked for that many times. Last year I saw a random man recognize my uncle and thanked him for putting him on the straight and narrow some years ago. My uncle also detests racism, as do I. I won't deny the cover-up of the DUI by the department was wrong, and I have no idea how they did it. But it's already done. I no longer care about that. My brother willingly paid in full for the repairs of my car, and he's keeping out of trouble. I know he could have hurt or killed someone, that much is obvious, but he didn't. My parents should have been arrested for lying to the police too, but they weren't. But my father was arrested later anyway because he attacked a man after being called out as a narcissist. And now that situation is what is currently going on. What happened with my brother is basically done now. My father trying to keep a man's face in knots is far more important at the moment than something that happened weeks ago. I've already heard it all in the comments about police corruption, needing to get my car rekeyed or have the locks changed, or several other measures. I plan to have the locks changed or rekeyed when I can afford it, but I currently can't afford it. So in the meantime, I'm getting a kill switch and a steering wheel club. Hey everyone, I have a funny entitled neighbor story that I've been waiting to post, and I think you all will like it. For background, my family moved to a quiet suburban town years ago to get away from the busy city we used to live in. Everyone in our neighborhood is either extroverted and loves socializing, or quiet and keep to themselves. My family fits in the keep to themselves category. We don't talk to our neighbors except for the few times a year that we would say hi to each other. Now for this story, my parents have a next door neighbor that has been there longer than my family has, and they never used to have problems until one day, the lady of the house, let's call her Karen, just started having issues. Now we don't know what caused the switch from calm to Karen, but we think it was due to my brother having his friends park outside of our houses and them accidentally blocking her mailbox at night one time. Just a theory, but that's all we have. Karen, since the day she snapped, has caused nothing but arguments between her and my family countless times. Calling the cops on us, for example, like blocking her mailbox on Sundays. The cars wouldn't be close to her mailbox at all, and did I mention that it was Sundays? Like we have told her that mail doesn't come on Sundays and that even if it did, we weren't blocking it to the point that the mailman couldn't give her the mail. When the cops would show up, they would tell her to leave us alone, that the cars were in fact not blocking her mailbox, and to stop calling about stuff that can be handled neighborly. The cops even warned her that if she called about an issue like the one she called in the past, that they will give her a ticket. So, since she couldn't call the cops on us anymore, her next move was to park her son's car, who at the time was freeloading off of them, all the time in that specific spot, so that we couldn't. Not a big deal, just a bit annoying that she couldn't be civil. So for this story, let me tell you who was all there. It was my brother, my mom, my best friend who I will call Shane, Karen and myself. So the day in question was during the summer. My brother, Shane and myself were outside playing catch with a baseball in a street in front of our houses. Now knowing that Karen could go off at any moment, we made sure to space ourselves away from the houses and her car that was parked on the street. As we were throwing the ball back and forth, my friend threw it a little short and it ended up hitting the ground and rolling towards Karen's car. Now the ball wasn't rolling fast, and when it got to her car, it hit the rubber of her back driver's side tire. I then told Chin and my brother that we should probably take this game of catch to the park, so that we don't accidentally hit her car and cause damages. So that's what we did, and we were there for at least an hour. As we were heading back, we saw Karen standing in front of her house, looking back and forth frantically. We thought nothing of it and just moved on. She then stopped us and started yelling.
You boys are in big trouble.
Bro asks her, "What are you talking about?"
Don't you what are you talking about to me? You know what you've done.
I say no. What did we do? Karen gives off a big huff and says,
You damaged my car with that baseball you have.
"What are you talking about? We didn't do anything."
Yes, you did. I have it all on video of you hitting my car with a ball.
You mean when the ball rolled and hit your tire?
No.
Karen then went next to her car and pointed at a dent that was on the passenger side of the car. Again, the ball rolled and hit her tire on the driver's side. I say, that was definitely not caused by us.
Yes, it was, and I have it all on video. The cops will love this.
Okay, let us see the video then.
No, you'll delete it from my phone.
Bro says, You know what? I'm done hearing this. Shane, go get our mom out. Shane runs into my house as Karen keeps saying that the cops will force us to pay a big fine. She has this nasty grin on her face. My brother and I are just sitting there annoyed cause we know she doesn't have any video. My mom rushes out like a bat out of hell and starts digging into Karen. What do you want now, Karen? I have video of your kids damaging my car, and I want you to pay for it. Boys, what happened? So I tell my mom what happened. How the ball rolled into her tire, how we went to the park so we wouldn't cause any damages to her car, and how Karen says we caused this dent on her car, and how she won't even show us a video that she apparently has. Mom tells her, okay Karen, if my sons and their friend did cause this, then let me see the video. I'll let you hold the phone the whole time while I have my hands behind my back, so you won't feel like I'm going to take your phone. No, your sons will delete it, I know. Me and my bro tells her, no we won't. So, show us. Never. Just pay for the fixes now and I won't get the police involved. My mom is fuming now, and she starts the angry laugh which creeps out Karen and, not going to lie, the rest of us as well. My mom then stops and goes crazy on her. You won't show us that video, she does the air quotes gesture, condemning my kids and their friend because you don't have one. Now you're trying to blackmail us into fixing your problem. Well, witch? You obviously don't know who you're messing with. Who are you calling a witch? You obviously can't look in the mirror and see how horrible you are and how your kids are delinquents. Really? You're going to judge me on how I raised my kids? Like my son here pointing at my brother, he is going in the military to serve our country. And my other son pointing at me is a straight-A student and going to be a scholar. My friend Shane at the time quietly said, and Shane here who is just a nice guy. My mom then continues, now let's look at your son who has no job, who freeloads off of you and your husband, and also beats his wife. Yeah, those look like traits that show he was raised by a good mother. Karen looked shocked. Who told you that? The whole neighborhood knows, Karen. It ain't no secret. Now either you are going to call the cops on my kids and show them the video, or I will call them and file a claim for harassment. You won't. You have nothing on me. Try me, witch. Karen then runs back into her house, and my mom guided us back into our house. Now my mom wasn't kidding. She did call the cops. We waited for them to show up and we all gave a statement. The cop then goes over to Karen's house and what we can see is her yelling at the cop, who we think was demanding to see the video. And after a minute of shouting, the cop then writes her a ticket and leaves. Obviously, there was never a video on her phone. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.